Actually, I'm nameless in the scriptures. I do not have a name. I'm in this garb because I am no longer a soldier. I am the Centurion that was at the cross. As you can see, I don't do a lot of public speaking, and I'm already dry. But I want you to know that I used to fit into this garb. In retirement, I've gotten a little big for some of the things that I used to be able to put on to take care of my charge. And even my head, sad to say, has grown a bit, and I can't even get it on. And my sword is so old that it's bent. But I could use it. You know, my story about the cross is a compelling one. Because I didn't believe in their Messiah. I didn't believe in their scriptures. And then it happened. Sunday morning. You know, the Jews were a very proud, rude people. They thought that they were the only ones on the face of the earth. But we were the rulers. We knew better. But they didn't seem to know that. And they talked about their Messiah. And that when he came, he was going to crush us. He was going to tear us apart. They were going to be the leaders. They would wear my clothes. Well, not these clothes, but they were going to have the wealth and the supremacy of the whole world. And then they were going to spit in my face. They were a proud and arrogant people, and they were always revolting. Yeah, that's what they were. They were revolting. Sunday came, and there was a large crowd of people coming from some little town called Bethany. And they said this Messiah was with them. We went on instant alert, my soldiers and I, and out we went to meet this army that was going to take over Jerusalem. Oh my. When I got out there and saw their army, the men, a few, women, a lot, and a bunch of kids. And I think, this is the Messiah's army? This is what he's going to take over Jerusalem with? There wasn't even a sword or a spear. All they were doing was waving palm branches. Like I said, these Jews were a little weird. They had some funny ideas about how they were going to take over the world. And I would be misplaced. Oh my, those were the days, yes. And then I saw who all the commotion was about. He had clothes on like me. He was a peasant. He didn't have the kingly robes on. He wasn't all made up. And he was riding on, you can't believe this. He was riding on a donkey. You know, when our warriors come into town, They're on a stallion. Yeah, a spirited horse. We know fool, a donkey. I tell you, this was humorous to us. Oh my. And then they got to the brow of the hill, overlooking Jerusalem, and there is the temple. Yes, it was beautiful. It was one of the wonders of the world. And everybody was looking at it with pride, and they kind of hushed and weren't yelling anymore about the Messiah, the Son of David. And I looked back at the man on the donkey, thinking that he was going to say, "Come on, guys, let's go take the city." And he's weeping uncontrollably. These aren't happy tears. He is rocked back and forth on the donkey. I thought he was going to fall off. He was in such pain and agony. And he said, "Jerusalem, you've killed the prophets. You haven't believed in the Messiah. How many times I tried to gather you to come," but he's weeping uncontrollably. Look out, here comes the rulers. Here comes the priests. "Stop this nonsense. Quit this. Disperse these people, Jesus." And Jesus says the most weird thing that I've ever heard. He said, if these people don't cry out, if they don't talk and praise God, the stones are going to start talking? This guy is a little off his rocker, maybe. He believes the stones are going to cry out if the people don't. I'm a little concerned. Maybe he needs to be committed. Oh, but then the rulers fussed and yelled, and some of the people said, "No, this is the Messiah," and the ruler said, "No, it's not." And then when they went to find Jesus to make him king, he was nowhere to be found. They were looking around. They looked everywhere. He was gone. He had left the procession. Now what are they going to do? This was a triumphal entry into Jerusalem? Oh, my. Just a minute. My public speaking is getting to me. Oh. But then, I didn't hear any more Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, but Friday morning, it seemed like the world was coming apart. Pilate called for the soldiers to come because the priests and the rulers were coming in, and they had a man that they wanted to be condemned immediately so they could take care of him. And when I got there and they put me in charge of the prisoner, it was the same guy that I had seen on the donkey. It was the same guy that they were all, "Hosanna to the Son of David." But they weren't saying that anymore. They were saying rude things and crude things about this man. They hated him. They wanted Pilate to take care of him right now. But as we looked at this man, there was no fear in his eyes. He wasn't afraid. He was of noble stature. He did look like a king. He didn't retaliate. He didn't say, no, don't believe these guys. He listened to it all. I couldn't believe it. Why wouldn't he defend himself? Why wouldn't he say something in his own favor? But not a word. Not one word. Now, that's not the way I would have done it. I would have made sure that Pilate knew how good I was and how brave I was. But not this man. But he didn't look guilty either. But they said he's to die for treason. Treason? The guy that was crying on the donkey? It didn't make sense to me. What were they after? What was wrong? Pilate didn't want to crucify him. So when he found out that he was from Galilee, off we went with Jesus as Messiah to Herod's place. Herod was glad to see him. Oh, hey, I've heard some things about you. I heard you can heal people. And if you heal somebody, I'll let you go. Jesus didn't say a word. Jesus, again, didn't defend himself. Again, they said nasty, cutting, horrible things about the way he was brought up, about his mom and dad. It was awful. And then because Jesus wouldn't heal anybody, Herod says, you know what? You're just an imposter. You're not even good enough to be on the face of the earth. I'm going to give you over to the people. Let them do to you what they think is right. And the people rushed on him, jumped on him. They were hitting him, and we had to stop it, or they would have killed him right there. But Herod didn't care. Herod wanted him dead. These people are really revolting. How can they treat somebody that just a few days before they were praising and now they're ready to kill him? Because he did good? Because he didn't think like them? Back to Pilate's we went. Pilate told him, this man is innocent. He hasn't done anything wrong. And he says, but he's against Caesar. Oh, that hurt Pilate. He became a little concerned. And he thought, if we beat him enough in front of them, maybe they'll relent. I've seen beatings before. They're cruel. They're awful. You have to become kind of hardened to be able to do it or watch it. So here they tied him up to a pole and then began beating him without mercy. Not even a murmur. Not even a complaint. Not even self-justification. He took it like a man. This Messiah was no wimp. He didn't complain and cry for what they did to him. Wow. I wish he would have been my friend before. Now Pilate says, take him. Go ahead. I got ahead of myself. We're going to backtrack. He brought out another man, a real criminal. His name was Barabbas. Barabbas, if I could get my hands on him, he'd be a Barabbas, all right. He was the revolter. He would kill and steal. I think he would have sold his own mother. And there they stood. And here, even though Jesus had been tortured, still looked like a king. But Barabbas? Oh my goodness. You could tell he hadn't, well, anyway, he hadn't. He was mean. It was written all over his face that he was a killer, a thief. He was the imposter. He called himself the Messiah. But Pilate said, choose, which one do you want? Here's the man. Or you can take Barabbas. They took Barabbas. How could they? I told you these people were revolting. They took Barabbas and said, we want Jesus crucified, not just dead. We want him punished. We want him to last a while so he knows he can't fool around with us. So now we took Jesus and Barabbas' two friends, and when Barabbas walked by, I gave him a little nudge to let him know that isn't the way I felt about it. But we took Jesus and the other two thieves, and as we walked down the way, we came to where the crosses were. We put the crosses on the two thieves, and they were able to travel on. But Jesus, when we put the cross on him, stumbled and fell. And all the people would do is just mock him. Come on, get up! What's wrong? Are you too weak? There was no compassion at all from these people, from these Jews. The only way we got there was a foreigner came through the gate, and he showed a little sympathy, and I took out my sword. And I told him he was going to carry the cross. Okay. He was willing. We finally got to Calvary as Jesus stumbled nearly the whole way, even without a cross. We got up on the hill. It took 5 or 6 men to hold down the thieves and nail them to their crosses, but Jesus just laid down peacefully. Like this was what he was supposed to do. And then when we brought the nails and the hammer and we began spiking him to that tree, Father, Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Such forgiveness, such kindness. How could they be putting this man on a cross? I was bewildered. I didn't know what to think. How could a man that seemed so good and so kind be so hated by his own people? And then when they put them up and the three of them were there, the priests, they really got bold now. Come on, Messiah. Come on down. We'll believe in you. Come on. Would you like to heal somebody now? They were mean. The words they said to him, it hurt me to think about what they were saying. And then there was this woman at the foot of the cross crying. And as Jesus looked down and saw this woman, it was like he was saying, "Woman, I want you to have a son to take care of you." And then he looked at this man that was standing beside him and it said, "Take this woman and treat her as your mother." I couldn't believe the sympathy that he had in his heart while he himself was going through excruciating agony. And then the railing kept going, saying those cutting and rude things, but one of the thieves seemed to get a different perspective. They had now been on the cross for 2 or 3 hours. And this thief looks over at Jesus and he says, "Lord, when you come into your kingdom, will you remember me?" I remember the words, "I tell you the truth, you will be with me in paradise." In paradise. Those words began to stick in my mind. I began to feel sympathy for this man, wishing that maybe I knew him better. And then all of a sudden there was this darkness, like the sun fell out of the sky. The people fell to the ground because they couldn't see a thing. We couldn't even see the hands in front of our face. It was so dark. Were the gods punishing us already? That was my thought. We've put this man, or we are killing this man, and the gods are not happy with us. I was even a little scared, but I couldn't show it. This wasn't in the script. But then the darkness lifted. After several hours, the people had been moaning and groaning. They didn't know what was going to happen. They were afraid. But all of a sudden, the sun seemed to be put back up in the sky. What were the gods doing now that we could see again? And then this Jesus, he should have been nearly dead. But he calls out, my God, why have you left me here? And then a few minutes later, as if in a victory, it is finished. I was overwhelmed with the thought that as he bowed his head and died, truly, this is the Son of God. And involuntarily I spoke out with a loud voice because I believed. After all I had seen, this man was the Son of God. But it was over now. He wasn't going to ever be my friend. I would never be able to talk to him again. And after the crowd dispersed and Jesus was put in a tomb, I went back home and I did a lot of thinking. I wish I had known him. I wish I had taken the time to get to know a real man. And then Saturday morning came. Pilate called us in and says, I got one more task for you to do this weekend. I want you to go guard his tomb. Now, I have watched many a criminal, and I knew that if they ever got away, it would be my life for their life. And Pilate says, they're a little afraid he's going to get away yet. Did I tell you these Jews were a little weird? So here I am with my 100 soldiers watching a dead prisoner because he might get away? Oh, I didn't know if I was going to make it. But we went that night, that afternoon and that evening, and we're watching the tomb. We made sure that nobody could get out, or anybody get in, and nobody could get out. At least not without our knowing it. And we had 100 people to take care of one guy if he did get out. Just in case, you know. All night long. We had things to talk about. But I was thinking. I was thinking about all the things that had happened. And about this man that was just on the other side of that big, huge rock. And I wondered, truly the Son of God? I wish I knew him. I wish I'd got to know him. I know I've said that several times, but that's the way I felt. And then it was getting toward morning, and there was this rumble. and I was knocked off of my feet. And I found myself lying on the ground with all the other soldiers. And there was this bright, soft glow. And as we looked up, I imagined it was an angel. It was beautiful to behold. I had never seen anything like this before in my life. But for some reason I was afraid and I couldn't move. But then the angel spoke. Son of God, your Father is calling you. And he flicked the stone to the side. Do you know how many men it took to put there? And he just flicked the stone aside. And out came a being so beautiful I could not look straight at him. It was brighter than looking at the sun. And as he came forth, he said, I am the resurrection and the life. And in my heart I said, I now have an opportunity that I wanted before to get to know him, to learn about him. That is our opportunity tonight. Maybe you didn't know him before, but there are those who have experienced him, like the thief on the cross. And he will say to you, if you just look at him, Lord, when you come into your kingdom, will you remember me? And I know the words that will come back to you because they have come to me. I want to tell you the truth. You will be with me